Hi, my name is Ray Wayne Gonzalez. Join me in my journey out of ignorance with things you pretend to know about, where we talk about things we think we might know, but really we have no idea.
Things you pretend to know about. Things you pretend to know. Things you pretend to know about. Things you pretend to know.
Hi everyone, welcome back to season 2 of Things You Pretend to Know About. Today on the show we have Harry frickin' Nelson, who, if you don't know, is a producer on the podcast Beautiful Anonymous or Beautiful Stories with Anonymous People, starring Chris Gethard. So long story short, I was able to get on the show, which was an absolute dream of mine. I was able to talk to Chris Gethard for an hour, and unfortunately by doing this I'm breaking my anonymity, but it only makes sense to explain how I got Harry Nelson on the show. So you may have heard, if you are familiar with the show, you may have heard Chris Gethard making fun with Harry or joking around with Harry, just some banter with Harry. And during my episode, Harry said that he would come on my podcast. So me being me, I found him on Facebook, probably on the Beautiful Anonymous community Facebook page, and I asked him, do you actually want to be on the podcast? And he said yes, to my surprise and joy. And he came on, and it was amazing. We got to talk about the ins and outs of producing a podcast. We got to talk about his coming into the podcast industry and coming into radio and podcasting. And it was just so inspiring for me as someone who would love to be in an industry like that and work into an industry like that. So yeah, it was just incredible, and I hope that the Beautiful Anonymous community gets to hear this episode. I just want to thank the Beautiful Anonymous community for being so supportive. I saw all the supportive comments you guys made, saying that you want to hear my podcast, saying that you like my voice, saying that you can relate to my situation. And it was very uplifting. It gave me the confidence to reach out to Harry Nelson. So thank you for that. And I just want you to know I absolutely recognize all the support you've been giving me for that episode. And you don't even know me. And that's the cool part. You don't even know me. I suppose now you do. But and I just want you to know that, because in the episode we do joke around about some negative comments, but I don't want anyone to think that I overlooked all the positivity and all the great vibes that I was getting, to sound corny, but all the great energy I was getting from the comments in that under the Meta Millennial podcast. So thank you for that. I love you guys. I love everyone listening to this episode, and Harry Nelson is the best. It was a dream. I hope you guys love it. Okay. Thank you. Love you. Bye. So I'm here with Harry Nelson of Beautiful Anonymous?
That's accurate.
So I called you on the podcast because I was on your podcast. I don't know if I'm breaking my anonymity, but whatever.
I think since we're in the same room at this point, I think
it's fine. Fair. And you said you would be, we were talking about this podcast on that podcast, and you said you'd be on that. What, did you actually think I was gonna?
I don't think I really thought about it at the time. It seemed, I don't know. I had actually forgot I had said that until we were getting ready to release the episode, and then I remembered, and I'm happy to do it.
Okay, good. Oh gosh, she actually messaged me.
No, I don't know. I guess you had said that you were in the area, right? Because
yeah, I think so. Well, because I was talking about the Hudson Valley.
Oh, yeah.
But he thought I lived in like Woodstock, but I actually was in the city. But I think I mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, I think at that point we had known. But here I am. from
Beautiful Anonymous.
Yeah.
And so do you work for Earwolf or how does Earwolf work into Stitcher?
it's a long and complicated branding situation.
Okay.
I'll start at the very beginning because I don't have much else to talk about. Might as well give the history of Earwolf.
I'm here for it.
Earwolf started as Earwolf, a comedy network, just like Scott Aukerman and all those people.
Right, right.
And then it went, then they started selling ads, and that became Midroll. And Midroll sells ads for Earwolf shows, Stitcher shows, and just like other shows too.
Yeah, I watch Philip DeFranco. Do you know who that is? He's a YouTuber, but he's always like, and these advertisements brought to you by Midroll. I never knew what that was. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we represent like thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of podcasts.
Okay.
But I don't do, that's not what I do. And then Midroll became the big thing. So then it was a Midroll company. So when I got hired, it was actually by Midroll. Like my email address is like, well, I guess I shouldn't say what my email address is, but it involves Midroll. Well, please email me. I'm very responsive and
Yeah, you
I
are.
have time to kill. So yeah, Midroll became a thing. Then they got acquired by EW Scripts, which is like they like do the spelling bee and like they own a bunch of newspapers and stuff.
Okay.
And then they bought Stitcher, which was an app out of San Francisco, like one of the oldest podcast apps.
Yeah.
And then they all sort of rolled it into one big thing. So now it's Stitcher's the main thing. It's like Earwolf is like a Stitcher company and Midroll is like a Stitcher company.
Okay.
But Stitcher's also an app, but it's also a network. But it's
Okay.
also where I work.
Okay, so you're employed by Midroll, work at Stitcher.
I think now I'm employed by Stitcher, work at Earwolf.
Okay, got it. So how'd you get to be a producer?
Another complicated story.
Because that's like a dream, I feel like. I don't know.
It's great. It's like, it's the kind of thing that you don't think is a job. Mm-hmm. You know, like, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could just make podcasts all day?
Yeah, literally what the podcast with me and Chris was. But.
And that is great. I mean, it's, okay. So can we back up and just speak to each other real quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello.
Hello.
So this podcast is you talk to an expert.
Yeah.
So can I ask what I am and what is my expertise?
Well, I feel you're an expert in podcasts and being a producer in okay, more so than I am, I would say.
Sure. I mean,
and I think also I wanted to have this interview with you, though, too. If anyone listens to Beautiful Anonymous and happens to know you, which I feel like Chris Gethard often has banter with you, you know, as he did on my episode. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I certainly want to know more about you and Jared, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jared's the big mystery, right?
Yeah,
Like, what's
definitely.
that guy's deal?
Know nothing about him.
Yeah, he's an enigma, and he will remain so. I'm not allowed to say anything about Jared.
That's fine. That's totally fine. But if he's listening, he's welcome to come on the podcast.
Jared, you coward, get over here. So I am from Indiana originally.
Okay.
Then I went to grad school here for television writing and production.
Where'd you go? Can I ask?
Long Island University. I studied under Norman Steinberg.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was a cool program with a lot of nice people. I got a lot of from there I got an internship. I worked at MTV and VH1 for a while. Then I worked at a place that I didn't like very much.
Okay.
And one day I was very sad at my job.
Can relate.
Yeah, right. And I was on Reddit, which is what you do at jobs when you're sad.
Absolutely.
And on the Earwolf Reddit, there was a thread that was like, there should be more New York Earwolf podcasts. And I was like, there should be more New York Earwolf podcasts.
There should.
And then one of the comments was like, hey, I work at Earwolf, and we're actually opening up a New York office. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm like, all right. And then I looked at the thing, and the guy, it was like E. Dean was the username, which is Eric Dean, who's now like the CEO of
Earwolf.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I write a letter an email just being like, hey, my name is Harry. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. I like podcasts. I think you guys are doing, like, I really like what you guys are doing. I have a future of entertainment, et cetera, et cetera.
I just want you to know I've also written that email at Earwolf.
Oh, yeah?
Before, after all, it was Earwolf.
Yeah. So this was in 2000 and, I guess, this was like 4 years ago.
Okay.
4 or 5 years ago now, which is insane. And then I hear nothing.
Okay, yeah.
And 6 months later, I get an email being like, hi, we're Earwolf. We are actually opening up that office now. Do you want to come in and interview for the studio manager position?
Okay.
I'm like, this is insane. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Did not get the job.
Okay.
Then 6 months later, I interview again.
Yeah.
Because the job, there was a whole thing with the job where it didn't. John Delore, who's mentioned every time,
Yes. Yeah.
he's like, they hired him as an engineer and the studio manager, just because it was a very small office at the time.
Okay.
And then once they actually hired, they hired me, and then I was a studio manager for a couple of years.
So what does a studio manager do?
So yeah, helping book guests, like making sure that two people don't show up at the same time for a podcast.
Okay.
And then just like making sure that it was like it's sort of like it's an office manager, but there are studios there too.
Okay, cool.
So it's making sure that everyone lives in a place that has trash cans and stuff like that.
Nice. I need one of those.
Oh yeah, they're important. I'm really bad about buying stuff like that, stuff that I need.
Yeah.
But I bought a trash can recently.
No, I don't mean I need a trash can.
Sorry, I was going to say I really know a really good trash can that I was.
Oh, you should just head over to IKEA sometime.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. It's a nice one.
Yeah, please do. Actually, my boyfriend is looking for a new trash can.
Oh, I honestly have a good suggestion.
Okay, good.
It's nice.
Okay, so studio manager, and then how did that develop?
Yeah, so I went in. They knew that producing comedy podcasts was something that I was interested in doing. It was my ultimate goal. So the company, the New York side of the company was, I think, like 12 people at the time, and
Wow.
now we're like there are like 40 or 50 of us in New York.
Wow,
alone,
yeah.
which is really, I keep saying the same things. So I slowly just started picking up producing responsibilities. I got handed a show called The Wolf Den, which is about the business and people of podcasting. It's a nice show where we interview like other podcasters and people with jobs at podcasting places, general
Wow,
podcast
so it's like this
stuff.
episode
It's sort of like
in a
this episode.
series.
Yeah. And then they knew I liked comedy, so they paired me with Chris and Jared, and I started essentially just showing up at Beautiful Anonymous, just like being there for all the tapings.
When did you come in? Because I feel like you were like a later add-on.
It was, I think, in October of 2017.
Okay, yeah. That's a pretty long time now, though.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, it has been a long time.
Yes, 2019.
Yes, it is, as we speak, it is February of 2019.
19, yeah.
So yeah, then I just started showing up, doing bits and pieces here and there, and then one day Chris was like, "Oh, we should say your name at the end too, since you're helping all the time," which was very weird for me.
Yeah,
I was a big fan of Chris's. Like I would go to see his
Yeah.
shows and all that stuff. So actually,
I can't imagine.
was-
Like that's like. What kills me when in the comments when I was saying earlier when people are like, she's just trying to get her podcast, and I was like, one, it was bleeped out. Two, just being able to talk to Chris Gethard was like my dream. Like my boyfriend was like, okay, we get it. You're like him. So like, yeah.
it was a while before I played it really cool for a while. It's only within like the last few months I've been like, Chris, I was at that show when you did this, or like I was calling into Beautiful Anonymous when it first started and stuff.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What a dream. See, a lot of people probably don't know that you were calling in like everyone else.
I remember Earwolf tweeted the number, and they're like, "We're doing a new show with Chris Gethard. Call in and get a chance to be."
Yeah.
And had they gone with me, I doubt it would be the success of this today. But the rest is history.
That's not true.
I mean, I don't know. That Ron Paul's baby call, which was the first call. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if it was
classic.
me instead.
Oh, this is like the very first episode. Yeah. Wait, so we'll jump back to your timeline for a sec, but after this, so how's the picking process? Does it depend on like what time of day, like what kind of callers? Because like, I don't know if you remember when I called, but I was basically like, because I've gotten through 2 other times, and like every single time, you know, I didn't get through to Chris, and then I would listen to the episode that probably was the one that I missed, and it was like something phenomenal. It was like, you know, something like miraculous just happened to this person. I was like, I get it. Like, I totally get it. Or it was like a refugee, like talking about and I was like, I like to talk about my parents' like brief divorce. But like I totally understood why I didn't get through. And I think when I was talking to you, I was like, listen, someone probably just beat cancer 5 minutes ago and was calling in. And I think that's what made you chuckle. And I think that's how I got through. But
I mean, it is pretty random. I mean, we screen people for how it sounds. I think the episode that came out this week, we did actually try and just like first call that goes through with no checking.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
And it just like sometimes phones don't work.
Yeah.
And some, but no, it's not like some of the voicemail callers are how we get like the prison call, for example.
Oh, right.
It's like that wouldn't have just come through naturally.
Of course.
Like, I mean, the odds of it coming through.
Yeah.
So that's what that line is for. But the actual calls, I mean, time of day, we tend to end up doing it like the same general time, like during like a work day, because it's like we're at work.
Yeah.
We did an experiment recently where we did a late night call. Like we all
I saw that too. Yeah.
came in. Jared and I stayed, and I think we started at like 10, just to see if we would get a different sort of call, and we sort of did.
Yeah.
Also to give other time zones a chance, because we are fairly East Coast centric. Because when we do it, it's like 9 in the morning in LA alone.
Right.
But it's the choosing process it's nerve wracking for me.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Talking to people, and oftentimes people will say, like, we'll be like, okay, talk a little bit, like, tell me about yourself, we can test the phone line, etc.
Yeah.
And people will sometimes say very sad things.
Yeah.
You know, and like but like in a quick pitchy way.
Right.
Like, oh, I've had a really hard time with all this, and I'm like, oh my God, my heart is breaking for you.
Right.
I'm gonna put you on hold, and then we'll then stay on the line.
Best of luck.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a privilege to get to work on the show that makes so many people happy. Changes. People have said it's changed lives. I'm a very small part of that. Chris is obviously
absolutely
the main driver, but it's those sort of technically things are a weird part of it that I guess people don't really.
Yeah, I'm sure people get like kind of like mad. I'm sure, but maybe not.
Maybe. I mean, sometimes people I'll see on Twitter, someone be like, "I got through." And then I
just listened to like punk music for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it used to be. Did you ever call when it was like that weird piano music?
No, I didn't.
That was like when we didn't realize it at first, but when people would call in instead of the hold music that we have now, which is like songs Chris picked, it was like this weird plinky plonky creepy piano music. And we didn't, and people would be like, I listened to that for an hour at a time. So we changed it.
Oh, that's
put
so
people
funny.
in weird moods.
Yeah, no, it's super fun now because you get to, he like narrates it, like what, and it's like his DJ set a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I found out about the podcast in 2017 as well, because I think he was on that podcast Homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I found him on Career Suicide, and then I was listening to Home, and I was like, oh, that was good, that was great, love him, whatever. And then I didn't know he was into the podcast world, and I was listening to Homecoming, and I was like, oh, cool. And then they like plugged Beautiful Anonymous
really?
through Homecoming
That's
or
so
something
funny.
like that. Or yeah, I don't know. So that's how I found Beautiful Anonymous, through that. Which is a show now.
He played like a gas station attendant or something.
I don't
in,
know,
like,
yeah,
an
something
episode.
really quick. Yeah, something really quick. Yeah. Which is, yeah, great podcast.
Oh, yeah,
Not a lot of
it's-
people know it was a podcast.
I know,
Now
yeah.
that it was
Now
a show.
everyone's just talking about Julia Roberts.
I know.
Who was great in the show, but the podcast.
I know.
Quite
Well,
the sound.
it was amazing.
Sounded really
That
great.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a Stitcher podcast.
It's not. It's Gimlet.
Okay,
Well, now Spotify.
We don't know them.
Spotify
No, I'm
guys.
just kidding. I know Gimlet too.
We're all friends. I mean, the podcast, there aren't that many podcast networks now. We're all
I know.
pretty friendly.
No, don't worry. I've emailed all of them. I know Gimlet.
I'm going to hear you on an episode of Reply All asking PJ Voigt to be on your...
That'd be great. Oh gosh, I know. That's like my dream. Just I'm like, I'll be like the janitor. Like I don't care. I'll work at a whatever podcast agency. What'd you call it?
not
I don't
really
know.
agency.
Network, I guess.
Network, yeah.
So where were we last in your?
Oh God, my
Podcast timeline.
my long story. I think that's pretty much it. I started, producing shows as well as managing office and studio, and then the office was growing and growing and growing, and then we moved into our like big new studio space, which is very very nice, and has like we have like 3 or 4 studios depending on your definition of a studio, and
Is it like an office within a building, or you have a whole?
it's an office within a building. It's like a floor of a building, or
Cool.
half of a floor of a building.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of space and offices and a whole studio area. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So when we moved there, my like sort of big last project as studio manager was making sure everyone was safe and moved, and I did.
Where did it start out? Was it?
It started at our first New York office was on 8th Avenue, kind of near Penn Station.
Okay.
So we didn't move that far. We're closer to Bryant Park now, and our old studio was very charming, in like a
Yeah,
in the way
there's
that
like a
real estate
ton of
agents say charming.
Right.
It's cozy.
Okay, I love that.
But yeah, so and then I became a producer officially, and we got a new office manager who's great, who's putting me to shame in her ability to manage an office.
Oh, I hear that. There's like a new social media marketer that's like on our team now, but she's just like so good. She
Yeah.
used to work for like the Dodo. And she like knows her stuff, and I was like, I don't just fire me. It's fine. So do you have any aspirations to do your own podcast, you think?
I mean, I've done that. That's another thing is like I did podcasts in college, and then when I graduated, before I worked at Earwolf, like I did a show with my friend in college, which was my first podcast, which I couldn't go back and listen to that now. It would be
I mean, yeah. I'm sure like as this podcast gets older and like I get hopefully more advanced with it or whatever happens in my life, like I'll listen back and be like, this is awful.
it's a nice time capsule, but it's like at a certain point you're not really the audience for your old podcast anymore.
No, it's just like any kind of art, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to look at the art that I made senior year in high school. That
Yeah.
was actually awful. So what was that podcast about that you guys did?
It really honestly
Just
was not
shooting
about
the shit?
anything.
Yeah.
It was, it was fairly early days in podcasting before I think people realized that you needed to have a thing to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was fun. We had fun. And then I did a show when I graduated from grad school because I was unemployed and didn't have any friends to essentially just like, I was like, this is an excuse to meet somebody, be like, I think you're cool, come to my apartment and talk to me for an hour.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a very powerful
That's like kind of what
thing.
I'm doing.
I
Yeah.
mean, I recognize it. Please. But it's great. I mean, because you so rarely get a chance to just talk to someone for an hour.
Especially when you're like working a 9 to 5 or like have just like, you know, something other.
Yeah, it's like, well, we'll grab a drink sometime, blah, 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 blah.
And it never happens. Yeah, no,
But, like,
I've seen so many. Obviously, I bring my friends on a lot of the time, or people I know who I haven't, because like, you know, that's the most accessible. But I haven't seen them in like years, some of them.
Yeah.
And they come on, they're like, oh, you have a podcast? Sure, I'll come on.
I know, people get so excited about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone who's trying to get, not, you know, hypothetically speaking, of course, what advice would you give someone that's trying to like get into the podcasting world?
I think, I mean, all of my, like, I feel like I've lucked into a lot of my situation. I mean, a lot of it's luck.
Yeah, it totally is.
But it's all been from putting yourself around the sort of people that you admire and that you like, reaching out to people that you are like idolize or that have
Yeah.
you're gesturing in it. This is why you're here
Yeah.
type way. I'm not saying you idolize me, but I know what you.
Oh, no, I do.
No, please. I
You're
can't
my
take.
idol.
But no, just, you know, going to podcasty things. Like I went
Yeah.
to this thing called Max Fun Con
Okay.
a few years ago, which is Max Fun is another podcast company that we don't like because they're not.
Yeah, we don't know them.
We don't know them. But they put on this great convention every year that's just all these like, I like in the best way possible, like big podcast nerds who just like love these shows and want to like meet other nice, cool people who also love the shows.
Yeah.
And I went there and it was great. Like, but then when I was there, I ran into Chris Bannon, who's the bigwig over at Earwolf.
Okay, yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you applied for that job forever ago, blah blah blah." And like that's then
There you
one thing
go.
led to another.
Yeah, it's just connections.
It's just connection.
Yeah.
But it's like those all came from just. It's not like I went to like podcast school. I just
Yeah, no.
you know.
I know. There's like a general assembly class for like podcast boot camp. I was like, I'm not going to spend $100 on it.
Yeah, I'll just buy a microphone.
Just buy a microphone. I'll fucking wing it. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I won tickets to go to Orlando to like a pod fest. And I kind of just like entered it just for like shits and gigs.
Yeah.
And like, then they're like, you have one ticket to this podcast festival in Orlando, Florida. And you have to pay for your hotel and you have to pay for everything, your flight. And it's like, maybe
be
not.
cleaning up after
and there's
us
like
after the end of
no
the
one I
convention.
knew that was going. Like
Yeah.
no one from any network that like
You recognize.
I recognized.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just gonna skip this one. Maybe go pay the whatever $200 to go to a local or
Yeah.
one. But yeah, no, that's like definitely what I've learned just in my regular professional careers and like in my career in art and like anything, like just like kind of stick your neck out and make connections because that's like the only way. That's what I'm trying to do more with this season of the podcast.
Yeah.
But the first one's a little bit of trial run. I'm like kind of happy that no one really knows from like the Beautiful Anonymous community. Like no one knows the podcast yet. I mean, ideally people will hear this episode, but
Hello, Facebook group.
oh
You're all very
gosh,
nice.
I
Please
know.
be nice to me.
I'm sure they will. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just to put this out there, if anyone's listening from the Facebook group, I love Jonathan from Queer Eye. I just can never remember his last name.
Van Ness.
Van Ness. Okay.
JVN.
I know it's JVN, and then I'm like, that's like always in my head, but I don't know what the VN is always for. But
Sure.
now I know. And like, I got multiple comments like, she should be respectful for Jonathan from Queer Eye just because they have the same. I'm like I love him. Like it's just like that. I was like, this hurts because I love him so much. And I mean, I stay by my Disney World comment, but
I mean, yeah. That also was kind of, so what was it like being like a caller one, but then there's a whole you get through, you have an hour to chat. It's always a nice time. This is a
Yeah.
lovely person to speak with. But then afterwards, what was that like? Like
it's
once,
anxiety like inducing a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like I'm like in this comfy, cozy spot in my life where like I'm trying to create content through the podcast and through my art, but like I don't have that much of a following on either of those things. So like people are generally nice to me.
Yeah.
And so it was awesome. It was like I was like when I first saw it, I got so excited and I was like liking things or whatever, and then I was like I'd probably unretweet it because and because some people don't actually know who I am, and then like everyone was so supportive, like reaching out to me, and like one woman found the podcast, I guess, because I told one person who was like, call her, let me know what it is. And then I guess someone from Australia found my podcast and it was like, oh, here from Aussie, like much love.
That's cool.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
And it was like very cool, very cool, very cool. And then it was like, this is boring. And then it was like, she hates Jonathan from Queer Eye. And she's like, and it's like, oh, she's so naive for thinking Disney World is more expensive than Europe. Yeah, no shit. Like, I know that Disney World is not more expensive than Europe. Oh, gosh. If you can swing Disney World and Europe, do your thing.
Hey,
do
listen,
your thing.
You're the one who has to deal with these comments.
I know.
These are
I'm
not
just
my
saying.
views.
I'm just saying. Like Disney World seems cool. Haven't been since I was 5, so maybe that's my problem.
Yeah.
But so that was just like a little bit like I wasn't super. It didn't make me lose sleep. Those comments, they were very benign with what they could have been.
Sure.
But like, and then I was like, well, what if Chris Gethard just thinks I'm trying to like plug my podcast and like I don't want him to hate me, and like just like all this, just like it's a little anxiety inducing, but it's also like super cool. Like I listened to, it was actually really just funny. I don't know if the ironic is a word for it, but my friend who is a teacher had me on his show. No, he had me to his class to talk to his class on career day. And I was like, what am I supposed to talk about? Like, I'm like, that makes no sense.
That's how I feel right now.
Okay, there you go. And so he's like, just talk about how like being an artist isn't a linear path. Like we'll talk about your podcast and we'll talk about like social media marketing and da da da. And I was like, okay. And so like, I kind of just like talked about like everything I talked about with Chris, but like in a more light-hearted way. To
You're like, I can't stand that guy from Queer Eye. I think Disney World's
the worst. Down with Mickey Mouse. And it was like to a bunch of 9th graders. And then my friend who also listens to the show was like, who was at that Woodstock show with me with that crazy guy. I don't know if you remember me talking about that with Chris Gethard, but she was like, "Is that your voice in the in the promo of you and Chris Gethard just posted?" And I was like, "Holy shit, it's up!" And so, because I didn't even know if it would be posted. Do you guys post every single?
Mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I just like. But after it happened, after I talked to him, I was like excited. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe he didn't pick it. Like, it's fine. And then
sometimes we hold him for a while just because of like.
You need an archive or a.
Well, we do like try. We like to have a few in the bank because Chris will tour or whatever, or things will happen. We can't make it into the studio,
Right.
But it's also we try to like not release the same sort of call week to week. Like we try and vary it as much as we can.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Okay.
It's just different things.
Yeah. So after I talked to the class, I was hearing I was talking about how in the class I was talking about how social media marketing benefits my art career and my podcast career and my career in podcasting. That was air quotes. Sorry. And
no, she said she had 2 thumbs up and she was making direct eye contact with me.
My podcast career. And then on the show, I was just ragging on everything in my life, but it was really fun and interesting to listen. And you'd think after you talk to him, at least for me personally, I was like, I was so annoying. Like he probably just took his glasses off and like rolled his eyes like that. I was so excited because I was like, I just fucking talked to Chris Gethard for an hour, like my favorite comedian for an hour. What the fuck? And then I was like, oh shit. You know, you get so much anxiety.
Yeah.
But
I mean, me even now at the office, sometimes I'll say something and I'll be like, oh shit. Does Chris hate me now?
I feel like he's down to earth. Though,
he's like the coolest dude in the world.
Ever, yeah.
I was like, you know, it's that thing where you meet somebody that you like, and you're like, are they gonna be
right? Don't meet your heroes or whatever, right?
Exactly. And but yeah, he's exactly the guy that he
portrays.
There's no phoniness there. He's
which
like
is
legitimately
great.
a
And I
great
think
person.
this is why he has such a positive following. You know, I've never seen any, like, I'm sure he gets them from time to time, but like I never see anything negative about Chris Gethard, because what would you say?
Yeah. Write in and tell us what negative things you would say about
Yeah,
this.
let me know. I'll use this blackmail to get into the earwolf.
Yeah, that's my secret story. Had sick burns about all the hosts.
Yeah. But yeah, and you had this like thing where you want to tell everybody, but then you're like, well, I don't want to like ruin the integrity of the show. But I also don't think Chris Gethard totally cares. Like I don't really know how he feels about the anonymity, like if you want to keep it or not. And like
I think it's a personal preference.
right, yeah.
Like I think that we've run into problems in the past where somebody will call and be very honest and have a good conversation and then immediately regret
right.
because like somebody will recognize my voice and I just said all these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that sort of like anxiety that it causes people, where you hang up the phone and you're like, oh no, what did I just do? Is what
Right.
you want to avoid, both because like as a human being, we don't want to make people feel that way. Like,
right, absolutely.
this needs to be like a nice consensual
cathartic.
process.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
But then also from a content creation point of view, it can be frustrating to have a really great thing and then not be able to share with people that we get such positive responses. People feel so good about very often.
Yes. Yeah.
That it's that sort of thing is where it's complicated.
Yeah, because then you just talk to Chris Gethard for an hour and not like that's it.
Yeah, you still want to waste that.
You don't want to waste it. You want to hear it back, right?
But yeah, it's but I think I don't know why I interrupted you to say nothing. So now please continue.
Okay, I keep losing my track of thought too, and I was like, I have to look like I know what I'm doing.
We're mirroring that. We're both thinking that. At the
Okay,
same time.
perfect. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to like act like I'm ragging on the Beautiful Anonymous community though, because they're so nice.
They're wonderful.
The most kind group of people I've ever encountered, and I've been to a live Beautiful Anonymous. Do you do those too?
The ones I don't travel with the show, but I've been to the local ones. Like we did a thing at the Bell House last year.
I was there. It was
yeah.
exactly a year like before my episode came out or
Oh,
something.
Really?
Yeah.
It was that long ago? Wow.
It was that long ago. Isn't that crazy? Because
Yeah.
I posted a picture on like Instagram of the timer, and then on the stage at the Bell House, and then I just looked at how you can see your archives on Instagram now. I don't know how much you use Instagram, but
Oh yeah.
you can see your archives, and it was like a year ago today, Beautiful Anonymous. I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy. How much a year can change, I guess. But sorry, what you guys?
No,
You go.
I was just going to say the live shows are good.
The live shows are great.
Yeah.
I think that one they talked about, there was those two guys in the car.
The Road Dogs.
That was great.
That was that. So for those, Jared is upstairs. Well, in that case, I don't think we were upstairs, but Jared is making sure that nothing catches fire in the booth. Making sure everything sounds perfect.
Right.
So I'm down there screening the calls for that, and that's very nerve-wracking because
because it's like
because
everyone's watching
and
you.
if something goes wrong, it's like Chris is going to be like, Harry, you did it again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he might, but probably not.
Right.
But you'll know that you're like
in the nicest way possible.
yeah. So that's but it's always so fun, and the people like the fans, I've never worked on anything before that has been so like loved by people.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a rare thing, and I feel very good
Yeah.
to be the third banana on Beautiful Life.
Third banana. Yeah, I obviously take so much, not obviously, I guess, but I take a lot of inspiration from that, and I think probably a lot of people do. Just like, because when I want to have these conversations with experts per se, like I wanted to be
There's
very
air quotes again.
because they're not always experts sometimes, but
Now she's pointing at me and with the thumbs down.
well, so but I wanted to be very like a normal conversation, like I'm just like talking to a friend, which a lot of the time I am, which is I feel like happens a lot organically with Beautiful Anonymous, where like you learn so much from someone else's perspective that you would never even think about, which is like kind of where I took a lot of inspiration from. Someone said that someone on the thread was like, I want to listen to podcasts because it seems like a lot of other podcasts, which is like, oh, oops. But it sounds like it might be a little bit like Beautiful Anonymous, and I was like, which is also another podcast that I'm stealing from.
I mean,
it's the biggest form of flattery.
It's like it's all about like you, though.
Right? Exactly.
You could beat for beat copy, Radiolab or something, which would be very strange if you
and
did.
Super hard.
That would take a long time.
Yeah, I'd have to definitely quit my job.
But it would be a different show because you would be bringing yourself to it, and that's what's so like another podcast advice that I don't need to give you because you've already done it is just make a podcast.
Yeah.
Like why not just make a podcast?
Yeah, and like I'm totally willing to have this like grow and change and maybe change my name because it's so similar to everyone's apparently.
Oh, I thought you meant your name.
No, my name. I know. I probably should
change my last name to podcast.
So people will really get the message. No, like I don't know. Just I think that's stuff you should know or something. I think that's the one he referenced that is similar to the name of mine, but I wanted to be like shit you don't know about or shit you pretend to know about, but like that's like wouldn't fly anywhere. Yeah, but like I don't know,
Yeah.
Whatever. I do cuss a lot in this podcast, and when we played it to the 9th graders, I was like, wait, no, I curse a lot, and they were like, ooh.
What was that like? Was it? How did it feel to give a presentation in front of 9th graders?
It was so funny because I was older than the teacher, first of all. I myself am 24, so which sounds older than I feel maybe, but maybe it's really young too.
I mean, I'm 31.
Okay.
And 24
sounds super young. Exactly. So like, but like once I got a grasp on that I was 10 years older than these kids, I was like, oh shit, like I'm a whole decade older than them.
You're like an adult.
I'm like an adult, like a full-fledged adult. And so, but then it was funny because I was thinking about all like my younger teachers in high school and how, I don't know, I was just thinking about how they don't know anything either other than like trigonometry. Like they like have no idea
but
what
not
they're
even all of
talking
them,
about.
only the math ones.
Only the math ones. Yeah, exactly. Like they could really just wing it. They could have just did like true Jack Black School of Rock style. Like that's like how I felt. And I was like, they're just like eating up what I say. I have no expertise. Like I don't know. Like I'm still figuring my shit out. But like they're like asking me about like, and it was kind of cool because they were like asking me about social media marketing and what I should do and like different like art techniques and whatever, and it was like cool to actually be able to give them something because I am 10 years older than them, so I do have some expertise, but it was still like the older you get, the more you realize that your teachers just knew almost as much as you did in high school.
Almost everyone. I am a big imposter syndrome person.
Oh, me too.
And that I feel like
welcome to my podcast with my Amazon mics.
Where else would you find the mics?
Yeah, I have no idea.
These are nice. What are these?
I don't know. My jingle master told me what to get.
Your jingle master?
Do you remember that?
The jingle
Yeah.
master. Yeah. I heard the theme song, and
It's not bad, right? I'm actually having a pop punk band cover it.
Oh
soon,
wow!
So maybe
you have
that'll
access
change.
to a pop punk band. I thought.
Oh yeah, there's a lot in the suburbs.
But yeah, what's helped me with imposter syndrome is realizing that almost everyone doesn't know what the hell they're doing or talking
It's
about.
so true. It really is so true. I was sitting in that class and talking about social media marketing, and I was like, these kids, like I had Instagram when I was almost out of high school, and you probably in college, and these kids like were kids when Instagram came out. Yeah. And they all have like 5,000 followers at least. I'm like really.
That's not where I expected that to
go. But they do, and like it's so true. And I'm just like grasping for like 1,000 on my personal page. Sure. You know what I mean? Just to like get my name out there. Which is another hard part about the beautiful anonymous thing, because I want people to know, but then I'm like, no, I don't, because then I'll be that girl that girl said I was.
Yeah, but it's also like different callers have revealed themselves.
I know,
Masked Singer style before.
I know,
and it's I don't know why I made a Masked Singer reference. I haven't even seen that show, but it just seemed, because I used the word reveal, so it made it seem really grand.
Like, spoiler alert, but I heard that Tori Spelling is one of them, and that was a curveball. I haven't watched it.
Huh.
Haven't watched it.
I'm definitely going to get home and watch a YouTube video of all the reveals.
Yeah, I just want the reveals.
Yeah, I don't want to watch Kim Jong or whatever. What were we talking about?
People have broken their anonymity.
Oh, yeah. For various reasons.
Yeah, of course.
And it's, fine, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
true. Who cares? There are no rules.
There are no rules,
life,
exactly.
Except for
and it's like, even Chris sometimes will be like, I made the rules and you can just do whatever you want.
Right.
It's cool.
Exactly. And it comes sometimes stems from cool stuff like that. Like I was referencing on the episode that I was on, that I follow on Twitter, that girl that also was starting a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
She was one of the earlier episodes, I think.
Yeah.
I think her name is Julia. Yeah. And that's she probably got like a little bit of a following from that, and is doing her thing and still like working at it. And like, I don't know, I think that was a cool thing that he does. But yeah, so I think my girlfriend that knows the show tried to put she said that she tried to post my podcast on the page, and she was like, apparently Chris Gethard was cool with it, but no one else was. And really? I was like, oh, okay, well at least he's cool with it. That's nice.
Is it, like the mods?
Yeah, I guess the admins or whoever.
Sure. Yeah, the Facebook community is moderated by this group of like really wonderful volunteers who just.
Yeah, I totally understood, and they like gave her. She like showed me a message, and they gave her like a super sweet like explanation. And I was like, I really don't care. It's fine. Yeah. I just reached out to Harry. I'll just reach out to Harry Nelson and have him on my podcast. But yeah, it's an awesome community, and so. Is there any other advice that you can think of? If not, that's totally fine.
No. Get Jared to fix all your mistakes. So what
does he do? He's the other producer?
Yeah, Jared is like the backbone of the show.
That's awesome.
He really makes... me and him work well together. I always say this, and I've never heard him say it, but I assume he feels the same way. Me and him work really well together because I think we like sort of fill in each other's gaps in a weird way. Like he's very like detail oriented and like goofy in like a much different way than I am, and I'm like kind of like feel like I'm like, hey, like it's like a buddy cop comedy,
Yes, I totally
he's like
feel
got
that.
stuck with me,
Yeah, the odd couple. Yeah.
But we're good friends, and I mean, he's gonna demand to come on this podcast and refute the fact that we're friends, but we are.
Oh yeah, he'll demand it. He's like, oh yeah, that girl from fucking Westchester or whatever. I'm gonna come on her podcast. Yeah, that's. I mean, did Chris Gethard just come up with the idea? Do you know?
Yeah, he just came to Earwolf and was like, I got an idea for a show. And that was very early days. It was way before I worked there, but I think around the time that I wasn't getting that job the first time. And yeah, he was just like, I got this cool idea for a show. I think that the way he tells it, like Earwolf didn't know if it would be a viable whatever.
Right,
But
right.
then it blew up, and
Yeah.
here we are.
I know. I mean, it's like I really only know. Well, there's so many awesome podcasts on Earwolf too.
Oh yeah, let's name all of them.
Yeah, I can't.
Who's the one with that guy from Queer Eye? What's his name?
Oh, no, it's Getting Curious with Jonathan Van Ness.
Yay!
Which I listen to on my own and I love and I respect.
She's giving another thumbs down.
Come on my podcast, Jonathan. I'll explain myself. Yeah, so it's been, about 45 minutes. Do you have any like closing? I kind of went fast.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you kidding?
Thank you, listener, for listening to this. I have a lot. I feel like I'm sort of revealing myself too in this episode.
You are, which is exactly kind of what I wanted. Yeah.
Because I'm around. You can find me online if you look.
I mean, I did it.
Yeah.
Just looked you up on Facebook. Or no, I saw you comment or something, and then I was like,
yeah.
I got an idea.
But yeah, and I like. I don't know. I like all this. I think I'm very happy to be involved in both this podcast and Beautiful Anonymous.
Yeah.
And anyone listening who cares about stuff, do that stuff if you can, because it's usually fun.
Yeah. It's very cathartic for me and super fun, and I would have never met you if it wasn't for Beautiful Anonymous and also this podcast.
I think the biggest thing Beautiful Anonymous has done, it's changed a lot of lives, but mostly it's introduced us to each other. And I think that
yes, that's the main.
I'm going to call and get that show shut down now. I think it's achieved its purpose.
I think it's time.
Yeah.
I was just on it so I can plug my podcast anyway. Just kidding. Chris Gethard, please.
Would you like to plug your podcast while we're here?
Yeah, it's called Things You Need to Know About. You might find it similar to Stuff You Should Know and Getting Curious. But it's my own, so I'm doing it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I usually say goodbye to Jingle Master Will on just to end the show. He was like, you need to end it with a goodbye or else I don't know where to end it.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. So now I say bye every episode to Will. So his name's Will. Bye, Will.
Bye, Will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.